Hi everybody, this is an absolute beginner guide just to start your very first small little crochet project. It's for absolute beginners, and we just start with our slip knot. You go over, take your yarn, go over. This is the part that's connected to my ball of yarn. Take that, go right through there. And there's a lot of videos on YouTube on how to do the basic slip knot. A lot of people do it differently. Okay, now this video is mainly going to be how to get your corners squared, because myself included, when I started, I thought I was going along, and I thought I was doing great, and then I'd look at it, and slowly but surely my work kind of went, my corners were not straight, and that happens a lot. And I'm just going to go and chain a little bit, just to show. Just going to be a little practice piece. And this is just the single crochet chain. Okay. Now you're going to chain as long as what you're doing if you want. With crochet it's kind of easy, because if you want a lap blanket this wide, you just chain this wide and then just keep going. So I think it's easier to measure how long something's going to be when it's finished with crochet than it is with knitting. But anyway, okay, now this, you're going to start now. You take it and you go into this one, and you hook it around, go through. Now you have two on your hook. You yarn over and go through both. Now you go through the next stitch. Now see, this one is where that yarn's coming out. You don't go in there, you go in the next stitch. Yarn over, pull it through. You have two, yarn over, pull it through both. Go to the next stitch. The next stitch, go through, pull your yarn through. You have two, go around, pull it through both. And you keep going till you get to the end. Now a lot of times I would just keep going, and like I said, I thought I was doing great, and especially if you don't count your stitches, which a lot of beginners don't, or if you think you're doing something fairly simple, like just a regular scarf or a lap blanket, like why bother counting stitches? But that's where stitch markers do come in handy. Okay, now I'm at the end. Now when you get to the end, you are going to chain one. This is for single crochet. You chain one. Then you turn your work around. Now, you're going to go through this first stitch. Right there. Now, if you go over to here, that's where you're going to end up, and your work's going to start pointing that way. If you want your work to stay straight up, you go through this first stitch right here. And make sure you go through both. See how that's split right there? You go through both those. That's both of these pieces of yarn. That's one stitch. Go through both. Pick up your yarn. Go again, go through the both. Then you go through the next stitch. And the next stitch, make sure you're going through both of those. Not just the one, go through both. Because if you look at the very top of your work, from here it looks like, oh, that's just one stitch. But if you look at the top of your work, that's one stitch. See how it's a V? That's one stitch. So you go through that V, yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, go through both. Now I'm going to continue until I get to the end again and then show you. Those corners can be tricky, because once you start veering off to one side a little bit, you just keep on going, because that's what the last row looks like. And so you keep going off by 1 stitch every row, and sooner or later it veers off. Now see, you're at the end, but you're not. You go to that very, very last stitch. And pull it through. Now, see how nice and square that's looking? You chain 1, then turn your work. Now you're going to go through this stitch right here. If you can see. This is upside down. Okay, I've chained 1, I turned my work. Now I'm going through this stitch right here. Yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, go through both. Now go through the next stitch, make sure you get the whole stitch. And you just keep going. And now see, I have a nice square. It's getting to be nice and square, see that? Now if you miss just 1 each time, it's going to keep going over and over and over and over and start facing this way instead of being straight up. You want it straight up, not veering. Now if you start going in 1 stitch each time, that's how it gets to be crooked. You want to stay straight up, so you stay, every time you turn, like when I get to this end, I'm going to chain 1, turn, and go through that first stitch right there. So we finish this. I used to do the same thing myself all the time, and I'd be like, what did I do wrong? And I was paying attention, but 1 little stitch can throw off all your work, and then you just keep going more and more sideways without realizing it, because that 1 stitch just threw you off. Okay, now this is my last stitch. I'm going to go through it, finish it, and chain 1. Turn my work, and I'm going to go through this stitch right here. I hope you could see that. Now see, that side, nice and straight. And you keep going. And if you have to take your work out and start over, that's fine. Just check it maybe every 3 rows and make sure it's looking nice and straight. And if it's not, crochet is so easy to just take out and do over. It's much easier than taking out knitting. This is my last stitch. I'm going to go through it, finish it off, chain 1, turn my work, and now I'm going to go through this one, not way over here, this one right here. Now, let me do a few more so I can show you. Now see, this is, my yarn split on me, so I'm going to just rip it right out. That was the ending of my stitch, chain 1. Okay, now go into that first stitch. If it doesn't feel smooth, if it doesn't go smooth for you, if it pulls even a little bit, something's wrong. Just rip out those few stitches and start over, because it should always feel not. Okay, so if something's pulling, that means something's not right. Just rip it out and start over. So see, I mean, it's not perfect, but then you just keep This is where I left off. So when I make hats or slippers, and just make sure you're going into, when you switch, when you start over on your corner, you're going through this stitch right here. Okay, I'm going to finish this, chain 1, flip it, and go through this stitch. Not over here. You're going to go through this stitch right here when you start your new row. Okay, I hope that helps, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask. Thank you.